Pope Francis says his predecessor Benedict XVI is very ill and asks the faithful to pray for him.
Tensions are high between Serbia and Kosovo as Belgrade readies its troops, demanding that the rights of ethnic Serbs in Kosovo are respected.
Pope Francis says his predecessor at the Vatican, Benedict XVI, is very ill and has asked the faithful to pray for him. Francis made the announcement at the end of an hour-long audience at the Vatican, but didn't elaborate on Benedict's condition. I would like to ask you all to pray a special prayer for Pope Emeritus Benedict, who in silence is supporting the Church. To remember him because he's very ill, asking the Lord to console him, to support him. The 95-year-old former pontiff retired in 2013, the first pope to resign in 600 years. He lives in a convent on Vatican grounds and has become increasingly frail in recent years. A Vatican spokesperson had no further details.
A closed border and soaring tensions as Serbia and Kosovo face off over the status of ethnic Serbs in Kosovar-controlled areas. A former Serb policeman who was arrested on suspicion of terrorism sparked off the recent crisis. He has now been released from jail to house arrest in a Serbian area of Kosovo. In response, the Prime Minister of Kosovo, Albin Kurti, criticised the decision, saying he found it amazing someone could be released when they have a standing terrorism charge against them. Serbia was keen to stress that a de-escalation of tensions must be based on guarantees for the security of ethnic Serbs in the north of Kosovo.
This is the condition of all the conditions regarding our country, and what the President of the country stated very clearly in the previous days. It is up to us to find a political solution. No one wishes for conflict, but the Serbian army is ready, trained, brave, and determined to protect the interests of Serbia, to protect our country and its sovereignty.
Meanwhile, authorities were forced to close Kosovo's only airport on Wednesday after a bomb threat. No suspects were immediately identified, and no one has claimed responsibility for the threat.
At least one person has died and 5 others were injured after Moscow's forces shelled the town of Oleski in southern Ukraine. The attack comes a day after Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Kyiv must accept its demands or else suffer defeat on the battlefield. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his troops and his people will stand firm. We are entering a new year and must retain a common understanding of our national goals, he said. Of course, this is the liberation of our land from the enemy, as well as the restoration of Ukraine, the return of our people home, further cooperation with key partners and the beginning of new opportunities. These are all tasks for the near future, and not only for the state, but also for each and every one of us. In Kherson, mourners gathered on Tuesday for the funeral of Natalia Ryashkova. The 47-year-old was killed when her apartment building was hit by a Russian missile. Attacks on the city have not stopped since Ukraine's forces liberated the territory in November. Some 30 kilometres northwest of Kherson, this small village is in ruins. The few residents left are bracing themselves against plummeting temperatures as the harsh Ukrainian winter sets in. As Russian President Vladimir Putin faces growing isolation on the world stage, he has sought to consolidate ties with a number of former Soviet states at an informal summit in St. Petersburg.
It's a strange time to be growing up in Russia. Economic turmoil and its so-called military operation in Ukraine has left many young people in uncertainty. But national pride has not faltered. At this Civic Forum convention in Moscow, one's duty to serve and fight is well and truly alive.
My dream is to finish it as soon as possible, the special military operation, to fulfill all the tasks assigned to the army and to the country, and once and for all put an end to Nazism and fascism, which are now thriving on the territory of Ukraine.
I have friends who are involved in this special military operation, and relatives too. I wish it would just end quickly. That's all. I want my loved ones to return home, and no one else to suffer.
But not everyone agrees with Russia's military efforts. Journalists at Doxa, a socio-political magazine, now banned in Russia, argue that Putin's popularity is dwindling. But voicing one's opinion is an uphill task.
Young people are no longer able to engage in activism and politics. Young people have practically no space left to express their own opinions. In universities, which are the main platform for the realization of young people, propaganda has penetrated every area.
It seems that this is a line, after which there is no longer any understanding of the limits of repression, and if there is some freedom of speech left.
Ekaterina now lives in Berlin, and since Russia's invasion of Ukraine back in February, tens of thousands of young people like her have left the country.
In Buffalo, upstate New York, there's so much snow that state and military police are ordering motorists to stay off the road. Some people have been trapped inside their cars after large amounts of snow fell in a short time period, killing dozens in the region.
So I want people to understand there's a lot of roads that are completely blocked right now, that have no access whatsoever. And people are trying to drive on these roads or trying to get into these neighborhoods, and they can't. Please, please, you heard the mayor beg, I'm begging, stay home.
Authorities have cancelled more than 10,000 flights in just a few days. Southwest Airlines has been much more affected than other American companies by the historic winter storm gripping North America. Many are directing their ire over missed Christmas trips to the company. A huge swathe of the US has been affected, from the Canadian border to here in Chicago, all the way down to Texas. More than 100 million people are battling freezing temperatures and disruption these last few days.
A small crowd gathered on Gallieni Bridge in Lyon on Tuesday to pay tribute to Mohammed Moradi. Police say the Iranian national took his own life by throwing himself into the Rhone River. Mourners laid candles and roses on the edge of the bridge, while some participants chanted "Woman, Life, Freedom," the slogan uniting demonstrators around the world following Tehran's violent crackdown on Iran's woman-led protests. Before he died, Moradi posted a video on Facebook saying he hoped his death would raise awareness of his country's plight. "When you see this video, I will already have died in this river," he said. "This is not a suicide for personal problems. My goal is to draw the attention of European and Western countries to the issue of Iran." Long live freedom, woman, life, freedom. Iran has been gripped by protests since the death of a young Kurdish woman, Mahsa Amini, in police custody in mid-September. Oslo-based group Iran Human Rights says so far close to 500 protesters have been killed and at least 100 risk execution. On Monday, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi said there would be no pity for those who show hostility and blamed enemies of the nation for mass unrest. Brazil's President-elect Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's incoming security minister says 100% of Brazil's police force will be mobilised for the seasoned politician's inauguration. Flavio Dino's announcement comes amid widespread fears of violence following a failed bomb plot last weekend. A supporter of the country's outgoing far-right president, Jair Bolsonaro, was arrested for allegedly placing explosives in a fuel truck near the international airport, hoping to sow, quote, chaos out of Sunday's ceremony.